Hello, it is time once again for the weekly overview of the Rune of the Day. I am Susan of the North, also known as Susan Hintz-Epstein, and the first rune I have drawn for today, January 12th, is Ingouge. Ingouge is a rune associated with Frey, one of the Vaner gods, twin to Freya. He is a god of fertility, he is a god of gestation, of things coming to fruition within the time limits of the gestation. And it is a good rune to draw this time of year when you might be planting new seeds for the spring, whether it's for an endeavor or a garden or your personal life. The rune for Monday, January 13th, I have drawn the rune Tiwaj reversed. This rune is associated with the god Tyr, who is the oldest of the gods, tracing even as far back as Dewaj, Dush, or Du in the Chinese pantheon, according to the Thunder Wizard, Michael William Denny, who's a good person to watch if you want to learn some interesting things about Qigong and how the medicine wheel of the rune relates to Chinese medicine. When I draw this rune reversed, I usually champion this rune because it's a rune, when it's upright, it's a rune of integrity and of acting on what is truest to your nature. When it's reversed, sometimes it could be indicate that we are having a momentary weakness. It could indicate a wounded warrior. If you have any veterans who are traumatized by the battle or have lost limbs to it, it could mean that someone whom you look up to, like a husband or other caretaker, provider, protector, is being abusive. I prefer to look at it and how we can live our best lives. And here's another interpretation as well. Because Tiwaj, or Tyr, is the god who lives in the North Star, which is the direction for guidance, for navigation of the longboats at night. It's a rune of direction. And maybe when this shows up reversed, let's say that we have lost our sense of direction, we've lost our sense of purpose, we are feeling adrift and unable to navigate our life at this time. And if this is true for you, then I'm a big advocate of journaling, to sit down and find a time and place when you can be alone, undisturbed by the kids, by the pets, by anybody in your household who is likely to need you for something at unidentified moments. Find a place where you can be alone for at least a half hour to an hour and take your journal and just start writing down all the ideas that come to you. What do you feel is blocking you? What antidotes do you have to these things that are blocking you? It's not about blaming other people for taking up your time. I used to do that too when my family was young. But it's more about saying, how can I create the space I need to find my sense of purpose and direction in life again? And I know it can be hard and confusing during these times because there's so much polarization going on within humanity right now. And it just doesn't seem very stable at the most or best of times. But we can find a sense of direction by getting in touch with those aspects of ourselves that are blocking our process. For Tuesday, the 14th, this reverses a little bit. This is the rune Lagouge. This is deep emotion. This is lake. This is running water. And that is so akin to emotion. If we've taken the time to go within and look for the causes of what is blocking us, we're back in the flow today. So that's for Tuesday, the 14th of January. For the 15th of January, I am drawing the rune. I try to go deep so I won't draw the same ones off the surface that I got last week. This rune today, this is Stan. Stan is the stone. And often when I'm drawing him in my own personal meditations, he's reminding me to get back to the foundation, to get back to the foundation. Now, how far back can we build a foundation? If you're building a house, stone is an obvious foundation. But if we are looking at our lives and how to make our lives matter, when the very times themselves can make us feel inconsequential, the foundation is built upon all of the actions and reactions and choices and decisions that we have made in the past, that our ancestors have made, that we are heir to. It's about humanity moving forward from its own history. And when we look at human history, and I break that down into two words, his story, we don't always take time to honor the divine feminine, which would be her story. How do we get back to the truth of who we are as a people when there is so much distortion about what we are being told today, about what we are being told through the media, about what we are being told through conspiracy nuts? I just break with all of that. What I can know is in my heart. What I can feel my way to is my sense of right and wrong, or my sense of justice and unfairness, and find the best answer for myself. Along the way, I become a healer for my ancestors, and they are many because I was adopted. I have two lineages. And the things that they lived with that colored how they raised me, the parents growing up through the Great Depression, my father, a World War II veteran, these things come down to us full circle again. I'm of an age now to be able to see tragedies. These, as I record this, we are a few days into the Southern California wildfires, and there's been tremendous property loss by many people, some of whom were among the very most famous and wealthy. And that just kind of brings home the fact that these disasters happen no matter who you are. They can happen to anybody. And I think we need to build back a foundation. There was something else I wanted to add into that. That with disasters can happen to anybody. And I am kind of stupefied by a conversation I had a couple of days ago with someone whom could identify as MAGA. The sheer indifference that some of these immigrants are coming from places of great devastation by natural disasters, by wars. They're looking for a better life. And America has always been that. So now in Southern California, we have our own devastation. We have our own displaced people and homeless. Let's not forget Appalachia with the tornadoes and hurricanes and flooding that hit them. America is being hit by some of these natural disasters. And I don't think that we can afford to lack compassion. I don't think that we can afford to not have a sense of reciprocity. That it should not be a class of people who is so entitled that they can be indifferent to everybody else. I think we need to return to a more indigenous spirituality in which helping one's neighbor, helping one's community is at the forefront of our value system. I'm just putting that out there. It's my opinion. But that should be a foundation upon which we walk the earth ourselves. The earth gives us so much. The earth gives us food, shelter, water, sun, rain, gravity to keep us anchored on the planet. Just food for thought. For Thursday, the 16th of January, and after my tirade, look what I drew. The rune Othila reversed. Othila is the rune for home. And I was just talking about people who were displaced from their homes due to natural disasters or other catastrophes like war. But we can tune into a deeper meaning of this as well. Othila as home, I have interpreted in the past as the physical body is the home to our soul. And when we are out of sorts with life, as we had the rune Tiwaj reversed on Monday, we don't really feel very much at home in ourselves or in our own life. And it has to begin there. It has to begin there. Even homeless, we can still turn toward the source of our being by whatever name you call the divine and find our way back to who we are, because we are all sharing the same breath. We're all sharing the same earth. Our differences are mostly a matter of how we think about things. For Friday, the 17th, the rune that comes up is Ansuj. Ansuj is about what you give word to. It's about the divine. It's about connecting to your highest self, which itself is connected to the source of all life. Through this alone are we kin. Whether you have anything in common with your worst enemy, it's this, the source of life. We can have very different attitudes and very different belief systems. And often we come into conflict and opposition, but it is through opposition that we fund the character to grow, to become more than who we are before. For Saturday, the 18th of January, the rune I've drawn is Nauthij. This is the rune of constraint and limitation. And it's what you do with the constraints and limitations on your life that force your growth. Or you can fade into the background and claim yourself as a victim. Sometimes we just have to fight, no matter whether we can win or not. We just have to fight through things that are larger than ourselves, whether they be natural disasters or debt or climate change or the need to feed a new family member on limited resources. This is all part of what I was speaking of earlier when I was speaking of learning to live with reciprocity as one of our foundational values. I believe that the earth is speaking to us through these natural disasters. And it's not because we've been bad or good. It's not because one group of people is better or worse than another. I had a major lesson on this during last week's meditation in my own personal work on myself. And I was told there is no bad or good. There's no punishment or reward. It is only what I will decide will have clarity for something that I would like to have an experience of. There's a deeper idea behind some of these things as well. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, there is the choice to come into this physical life by the Spirit to choose experiences that are enriching to the soul. And from a spiritual perspective, not a physical perspective, but from a spiritual perspective, some of the hardest things that we can go through were the most eagerly implemented by our spirit so that we could come through and grow and learn and survive through them. Most people are like, why would I want life to be hard? Well, I don't think anybody in the physical viewpoint of it wants life to be hard because the body suffers. It suffers hunger, it suffers cold, it suffers too much heat, it suffers lack of shelter, lack of cleanliness, lack of food. But how we acquire these things is for some people an adventure. Am I going to say that everybody who is homeless chose that? I don't want to pass that judgment. But I just want to share a different viewpoint. Maybe these people who are suffering are there for us to learn to be generous with ourselves, with our wealth, with our capacity to provide. So there's just another thought to drop in your bucket for this week. I had been thinking a little bit about bringing something more to this channel than just reading the runes every week because there's so much need in the world. And I have been questioning myself as to those things which, what can I do? What can I provide? And it's not a question of lack of capacity. It's a question of what can I give energy to given a full work schedule, given, my own need to take care of my health at this point in my life and other things. And well, I want to share a story I had. And this was, I've been studying to try to learn more about the process of synchronicity so that I can be more in tune with the messages that spirit might hold for me. Yes, maybe pulling a rune every day for meditation in the morning is a wonderful practice, but it doesn't always give me a direct answer to my burning questions. So I just want to relay this story because it was a good example of synchronicity in action and of a direction I might be taking in my own work, in my own life, as far as I can, given the challenges that I'm facing at this time. So it happened this way. I had a full work week and I was exhausted. Thankfully, I have the weekends to come home and recuperate. And I look forward to picking up on my creative work where I left off. Well, yesterday, Saturday, my two pets just wouldn't quit. I know that they had not had as much of my time to play with them, and I more relatively understanding and forgiving of that. But I had been given a small Inuit doll by my thoughtful daughter-in-law for Christmas, and I put it with my altar of Sila Inua, because I thought it was a sacred coincidence that she had given me this Inuit doll. It was an inexpensive souvenir, probably very old, some leather and fur glued onto a cheap plastic doll, but it was something thoughtful and related to something that I work with. And Sila Inua is one of the goddesses I work with. Well, Cat got up on the mantelpiece and knocked off the doll, and Dog got the doll and chewed off a foot when I caught him. So I picked up the doll, I reglued the foot, reglued the doll to the stand. Some of the parka fur was missing, which was rabbit fur, and I glued that on as best as I could and thought, no more of it. I'm going to let this dry and put it back where I had it. It was a coincidence the cat knocked it off. Well, I was on Facebook and I belonged to Renee Baribeau's Wind Clan group, and she had posted a prayer she had written for the calming of the Santa Ana winds out at the fire scenes in Southern California. So I was saying this prayer, and as I was praying, very sincerely, I heard a crash and a boom, some scampering of feet in the other room. I didn't immediately jump up from the prayer because to me, prayer is a sacred act and I was going to finish it. I go around the corner, and there is this doll laying on its back. Its bottom clothing has been removed, its feet chewed off, and it looked like a violent act of rape, except I knew it was a doll. But the synchronicity of it and the animals being sacred messengers hit home. And I really needed to feel out what was going on within my heart in relationship to this doll. So my first thought was that Mother Earth has been raped and degraded and violated by human beings who have forgotten to live in balance with her bounty. In this culture, capitalism, we have such a rich elite who often gain their wealth on the backs of people who have more satisfaction from a family life and than they do from wanting to be the head of a corporate ladder. So we have this imbalance here. And I thought how far we have come from the Native American or the indigenous spirituality of reciprocity, of thanking the land for what one takes, of taking only what one needs, as opposed to harvesting a whole forest to get rich on the sale of lumber for homes. How we have developed a social conception of and I'm failing for words because I can so easily understand both sides of the question. It's nice to have our own home. It's nice to have the American dream. But when everybody has the American dream, the land is taken up and consumed by that American dream. And it cuts back on wildlife habitat and it cuts back on room for the forests. And the forests are responsible for oxygenating our planet. So I don't want to judge the sides either, but I think that we need, speaking collectively as a country, as a planet, to take a look at, as the human collective, to take a look at what we believe, how we live, and to find a lifestyle that is more in accord with a respect and reverence for the earth, which is home to all of us. It's not that we have ready made planets already established with homes for all of us to evacuate this planet once we have finished raping her. And the second thought that came to me on this doll, this broken doll, was a person that I follow on Instagram who is an Inuit, and she lost a sister, probably to a kidnapping and a rape and a murder. And she is on the warpath that this stop happening to her Inuit sisters. I can support that movement. I might not be able to get out and picket for it, but I can financially contribute to what will help them. And the third thing that came to me over this broken doll was how broken the divine feminine has been by the patriarchy that wants to see only for itself, to take what it can take, to use what it can use. And I'm not speaking against all men, no. I'm speaking against a way of thought that believes it has the right to conquer, manipulate, and control. And that is why I'm speaking out today. I hope that this message resonates with some of you who have been viewing and enjoying my Rune of the Day podcast on YouTube. I'm going to start trying to find more things to say, to speak to try to put seeds into the human collective, to think other than we have become accustomed to thinking, to return to perhaps a healthier way of thinking of others as ourselves, of walking a mile in another person's moccasins before we make a judgment or a criticism, of even being forgiving with ourselves when we fail to live up to our own standards. There is just such a need for a turnaround, for healthy self-love, not destructive, not greedy, but a healthy self-love that says, not, I have rights, but I have obligations. And I have to quote that. It was a meme I came across on something yesterday, whether Facebook or Instagram, I don't know. But there was so much of an awakening going on, but there is still so much to do. I will leave you with that thought. I am Susan Epstein, also known as Susan of the North, and I wish you all a good week with the runes. And if you are led into soul searching this week, I hope you find the answers that you need. If you are led to change your lifestyle, I hope you find the answers that you need. It's still something I'm working on. Maybe we can work on it together. May you be blessed.